Hello everybody, this is your student Facebook meteorologist Sean Bagden here, and we are live to talk to you about a potentially significant high elevation snowstorm that is going to be impacting the Front Range of the Rockies from pretty much the northern half of Colorado all the way down to Raton Pass and some of the Rocky Mountains in central New Mexico here, which will be mostly impacted here with the greatest impacts. This current frame right here that we are looking at is for early morning on Saturday. This is 2 a.m. on Saturday morning here, and we've got two pieces of energy we're going to be watching for the development of the system. We have this potent vorticity maximum that is currently located over the Aleutian Islands that's going to be diving south, and we can tell it's very potent right here with these deep purples showing very strong forcing along with this axis of vorticity right here, which is pretty much just wind energy that we're looking at right now. And we also have this cutoff low, which will also be helping to produce a strong area of frontogenic forcing and really starting to ramp up lee frontogenesis across the Front Range of the Rockies right here later on into Sunday. Heading into the afternoon hours, this is right around sundown on Sunday right here. We can see that this potent vorticity maximum really starts to dig and capture this cutoff low that developed over California. This will likely bring drought relieving and wildfire relieving rain across California here as it pumps moisture into the southwestern United States, and this is going to get injected into this trough axis. It's digging south towards the Front Range of the Rockies here, and will help to produce the development of a low pressure system right here across the southern Front Range here, as this high pressure system to the north starts to anchor in and intensify, causing easterlies and strengthening upslope flow to develop along the Front Range here in Colorado, which we will get into shortly here. Going into Sunday at 2 a.m., we can see that this trough axis continues to dig south, and looks like we're already starting to get this cutoff low, or used to be cutoff low, absorbed into the greater flow here, as we're going to start to see this the base of this trough really start to energize here, and we'll start to see potent vorticity streamers start to lodge themselves into the Colorado Front Range here, Rockies Front Range, as we head into the evening hours on Sunday into early Monday. This is going to be looking at the early afternoon hours on Sunday here, and we can clearly see now we have this double barrel area of low pressure here. One area looks like this area of low pressure is starting to develop here right along the Wasatch, right out in the right exit region of this jet streak right here, with energy getting injected into it from the base of this trough, and we're starting to get cyclogenesis to develop right here, likely across the Wasatch, and we'll start to see some light upslope snows begin, but we'll have to wait for this trough to dig even further in towards the northern New Mexico area to get those easterlies to back around and start this upslope event cranking here over the next few hours. And heading into the early morning hours on Monday, this is really when things go downhill here across Colorado. We start seeing this big this big invigoration of this upper level jet here at 500 millibars. Lots of energy gets sucked into this developing area of low pressure as it starts to rapidly intensify over the Four Corners region, and looks like at this point we have high pressure located right here over Wyoming, and low pressure developing and probably bombing out here over the Four Corners region, and that intensification of that will strengthen the low-level easterlies coming into the Front Range here, and we'll likely see with this location right here of a low, we'd likely see northeasterlies funneling into the region. As you can see with this 500 millibar flow, it's usually about 180 degree shift in wind. So these are out of the southwest. We'd expect northeasterlies coming into the Front Range here of the Rockies. And this is very buoyant flow that's going to be heading into the region here. As these vorticity right here, boom, boom, boom. There's going to be 3 areas of strong snow bands that are going to be relatively stationary across the Front Range of the Rockies here. Anybody who does get into these bands of snow will likely be seeing thunder snow as this low is rapidly intensifying, and probably up to 2 feet of snow in the high elevations of the Front Range of the Rockies here, especially in these stronger bands here. Otherwise, we'll be seeing a good amount of subsidence. As you can see here, there's these big breaks within these bands, and it's going to end up being like one of those lake effect snow events where you can go 5 miles in either direction, and you can go from a sunny day and 0 inches of snow to a full-on blizzard as you head on down the main interstate here from Fort Collins down through Pueblo and Raton Pass. Likely going to be in and out of very heavy snow squalls here. Potential for thunder snow with high omega values, high negative omega values here across the Front Range of the Rockies. And this signal just continues to strengthen as we head to hour 84 here, as we continue to see an invigoration of this upper level jet right here, and a further southward translation of this developing area of low pressure will likely be here across New Mexico at this time, which will continue to funnel easterly flow into the Rockies. And this should continue for a good amount of time here, so would not be surprised to see some areas exceed that 2-foot range, as these snow bands are going to be very consistent and heavy over a long duration of time across the Front Range of the Rockies here, given how stationary this flow pattern is across the area, and likely to see this upslope flow continue for a large majority of the early part of next week. Definitely wouldn't be surprised to see some 3-foot totals and maybe even higher across the Front Range of the Rockies, because the NAM run here does not go towards the end of this event, as we still have this trough axis that is lazily kind of hanging back here over California, continuing to feed this low and really showing no signs of weakening and lifting off to the east and northeast here. So it looks like this pattern is here to stay, and we'll be starting the ski season here in Colorado with above average snowpack, which is great for the skiers here. Again, 2 to 4 feet of snow in these heaviest of bands over a 3 to even 5 day period of heavy upslope snow, likely around 6 to 12 inches every day from Sunday, likely on into the afternoon on Tuesday and early morning hours on Wednesday. So now we're going to zoom this in to Colorado right now. to have a look at what's going to be happening down on the low levels here. Hold on, let's get those low-level winds here. There we go. Alright, so here comes... Okay, so this is when we are having our peak snowfall right now, with our heaviest rates between hours 78 and 84. We'll actually go right in between that. And here we go. We have this area of low pressure that develops right here, right in the, a little bit to the north and east of the Durango area. And that's causing this easterly flow to get pummeled into the Palmer Divide here. These easterlies are going directly perpendicular into the front range of the Rockies, pretty much all the way up and down, and even northeasterly flow here, where we get into like the Palmer Divide and Raton Pass area. So perpendicular flow pretty much all up and down Colorado here, with a strengthening area of frontogenesis that does develop right along the Front Range here, as normally happens. Likely going to see some very strong surface gusts, as we'll be having this area of frontogenesis here and upslope flow. So any of these upslope towns here likely going to be seeing some gusty winds and near blizzard conditions with this upslope flow across the area here. Going into what's actually going to be falling from the sky here, we're going to be looking at some soundings. 78 hours out is when the most potent vorticity maximums are going to be around. So we're going to have a look at 3 areas in Colorado along the Front Range. We're going to have a look at soundings from Fort Collins to Denver, Denver through the Palmer Divide, and then Pueblo down to Raton Pass here. And we'll show you what the ambient and sensible weather is going to be across these areas, and have a look at how heavy these snowfall rates are going to be along the Front Range. So here's the Front Range from Fort Collins to Denver, box sounding for this area. And here we can see very favorable, very favorable conditions here for heavy snow development. Actually, we'll go a little bit more into the Front Range here. There we go. That's right on the Front Range, that sounding. And we can see very favorable sounding for thunder snow and heavy snow right here. We can see a very deep layer of this sounding is in the dendritic growth zone, which is generally from -10 to -20 degrees Celsius, which we can see right here. A large portion of this, from 700 millibars all the way up to just above 500 millibars, is completely saturated and within the dendritic growth zone. That is a very deep layer in the dendritic growth zone, which will allow for very efficient production of snowfall here, especially given the saturated low levels of the atmosphere here within that dendritic growth zone. And also looking at these very negative omega values right here within the dendritic growth zone from about, what is that, 600 to 500 millibars. There's very deep layer instability that does develop there, and we'll likely see thunder snow throughout a large portion of these Rocky Mountains and the Front Range of the Rockies right here, especially given how unstable that upslope flow can be associated with Lee frontogenesis here across the Front Range of the Rockies. Can clearly see this upslope flow with the strong inversion in place, with that subsidence inversion developing with that strong high pressure to the north, and these easterlies right below that inversion, which is helping to force these parcels up the mountain, and they tend to condense, and due to that very fast rising motion up the mountains, we generally see high amounts of instability, which are clearly shown here across the 600 to 500 millibar level here. And due to the fact that they have a hard time getting up through this inversion, these parcels, we normally see very shallow cloud decks right here that cannot get themselves up and over the mountain spines, and that is when you just have to wait for these clouds to wring themselves out. And when they wring themselves out with this amount of moisture and instability, we likely see very heavy snowfall and convective elements within these snow bands. So expecting extremely heavy snowfall totals, especially up here on the northern part of Colorado. Would not be surprised if this is an area that sees around 2 feet of snow during this event. Would not expect this to be where the highest snowfall totals occur, just due to the fact that we will not be seeing the most consistent upslope flow in this area. We'll go down to Raton Pass later, where we're expecting more consistent upslope flow to be occurring, and the highest amounts likely to be down here, just south of the Palmer Divide, in between Almosa and Trinidad, along this Raton Pass area right here in the high elevations, where up to 3 feet of snow is possible. Up here, just to the west of Denver, Longmont, and Fort Collins, across the Front Range here, that will be your secondary maximum, where the most favorable dynamics will be in place, but we just don't have the duration of heavy snow across this area to really get those highest amounts. That'll likely be down here, where the duration and dynamics come into place much better across this area between Almosa and Trinidad here. Alright, so we're going to head on down towards the Palmer Divide here, Castle Rock to Pueblo. There we go. And here's what our sounding looks like down here. This is likely where we're going to see some of the least amount of snow, but still looking at pretty favorable sounding profiles here. But again, really not looking as favorable, just due to the fact that we don't have that purely perpendicular flow along the Palmer Divide. You have weaker surface winds below this inversion, which decreases your instability and speed of the flow up the mountains, which will also decrease our snowfall rates here. But we're still looking at very efficient snowfall production along the Palmer Divide area, just due to saturation within the deep dendritic growth zone here. But we are lacking the instability, as we can see here. Very minimal omega, negative omega, available here in the low levels of the atmosphere. So expecting heavy snowfall, but not as heavy as further north and further south, due to the fact that we do not have as strong of an upslope flow below this inversion, which creates a lack in instability for those very intense snowfall rates, but still looking at warning level criteria for our snowfall here, likely exceeding 8 to 12 inches here in the higher elevations of the Palmer Divide here. Now as we head in between Almosa and Trinidad, this is where we're expecting the absolute heaviest snowfall to occur. Oh, hold on. We'll go out to hour 84 when dynamics become a little more favorable down here to the south. Here we go. Between Almosa and Trinidad. This is right near that Raton Pass area we were talking about earlier. And here we go. again, down here in these lower elevations, we do have that deep, or further south at lower latitudes, we do have that deep dendritic growth layer still, and definitely a good amount more of elevated cape here, but we still do not have as deep of an upslope flow. I may actually need to hop on into a little bit lower of an elevation here, like right around there. Might give me a better sample. Not really. Hold on. We gotta get to a lower elevation here. Maybe right along the highway. Okay, that's a little bit better here. We can see that we have that depth in the dendritic growth zone here, likely the deepest of anywhere here for this dendritic growth zone. We have this elevated instability here and a little bit of surface-based instability with these moderately strong omega values. So we're pretty and also we have this weak upslope flow, which is causing these omega values to be a slight bit lower than northern Colorado. But the reason why we are expecting the Raton Pass area to be the big winner here overall through Tuesday morning, and I mean Tuesday afternoon here into Wednesday morning, is because we do have this deep dendritic growth zone. We have modest instability in the low levels with this modest upslope flow right here, which will lead to, again, modest instability. But again, we do have that timing, and it's going to be snowing here for probably the longest and most consistent of anywhere on the Front Range here. So we do have that combination of timing, duration, and that modest instability in place. So looking at the total snowfall map again, at this point we'll likely be seeing snowfall wrapping up across the northern Rockies, but we'll be seeing continued snowfall for at least the next 24 hours after this snowfall map is shown across southern Colorado into the Raton Pass area in between Trinidad and Almosa. So these are not going to be final totals down here, but likely north of the Castle Rock, we'll be seeing snow wrapping up pretty shortly after this frame right here. So here's our snowfall, total accumulated snowfall, and here's your 2 feet of snow that we'll likely see across a good deal of this area between Fort Collins, Longmont, and Denver. Again, this is where the most favorable dynamics are in place, but again, we don't have the duration for these dynamics to really take hold and get those extreme amounts that we're expecting down here between Almosa and Trinidad down here, right in this higher elevation. Again, this 9 inches is likely a bit on the low side because it will be snowing for an additional 18 to 24 hours after this. Expecting this little bullseye right here to be around that 36-inch range by the time it's all said and done. Likely having a gap here because of that lack in upslope flow and dynamics between the Castle Rock and Pueblo near the Palmer Divide here, which is shown pretty well on the NAM. And then best dynamics up here across the northern Front Range of the Rockies between and just west of Fort Collins, Longmont, and Denver. I think the NAM is overdoing it here, overdoing and oversampling the convection that does develop here. I think we end up with about 2 feet across the Front Range, northern Front Range here, with 8 to 12 inches across the Palmer Divide from just west of Denver down to Pueblo, and then potentially 2 to 3 feet of snow in the higher elevations just to the west of, I believe this is I-29 or I-35 here, between Pueblo and Trinidad. And then right on the interstate, expecting snowfall amounts to be approaching that 12 to 18 inch range. So that's about all we have for forecasting for the snowstorm. We will be back later on tomorrow to give our final thoughts and accumulations on the storm, but I'm likely thinking that the bullseye will be down here across Raton Pass between Almosa and Trinidad, with a secondary maximum with the better dynamics across the northern front range of the Rockies, although we could see this area become the maximum if we do end up getting that duration, increased duration, with a further north position of this area of low pressure, allowing for those better dynamics to funnel in here for a longer duration of time. Then I could see this 3-foot bullseye being possible across this northern front range of the Rockies here. That is all we have for this. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest. Have a great day, everybody.